What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Club JG podcast. I'm your host, yours truly, John Graham, aka JG. With me right now is a 13-year NBA vet, most notably with the Charlotte Hornets for 10 seasons. The shortest player to ever get drafted in the NBA, at number 12 overall to the Washington Bullets, including 6 consecutive years, top 10 in assists. NBA vet Muggsy Bogues, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, John. Appreciate you, boss.
Absolutely, boss. Appreciate you, man. So, hey, before we get into everything with the NBA, you were also a star, Baltimore legend with the legendary Dunbar High School. And ESPN 30 for 30 had, in the past few years, released a documentary talking about the Baltimore boys. You're starting five with you on there. You guys were undefeated. Can you let our viewers who may not know much about Dunbar basketball just kind of give them a little insight about, how Baltimore boys came about, and just tell us about your team back then?
Well, the Baltimore boys, which you're alluding to, the documentary that they kind of did on our behalf. I mean, we was just a bunch of kids that grew up in the same neighborhood. Guys that had the same dreams and passion about the game of basketball, kept each other accountable, competing against each other early on in our careers, in our recreational leagues that we had to play against one another. Myself, the Reggie Lewis, may he rest in peace, Reggie Williams, as well as David Wingate, the four of us that was able to go on and make it all the way in the NBA from that team. But it's a little different than what it is today. The powerhouse teams in high school, they kind of form these teams, recruit these players from different states, different cities, and they bring them all together. Fortunate enough for us, we grew up in the neighborhood. We was right up the street from one another. We understood who we were, all the in terms of which each other dreams and journey was, and we encouraged each other and we uplifted each other, and then we was able to be blessed to play on the same team in high school with all that talent. But we had to have a man that had to have the tools to be able to keep all that egos and all of that testosterone under in control. And Coach Wade, Robert Wade, was that for us at at Dunbar during our time in high school. I mean, we went 59-0 my 2 seasons at Baltimore. So we was something to be reckoned with. But it all stems from where we came from, how we was raised, the things that we was instilled with each other allowed us to become, very close. And we did something very special in the 2 years that I was at Dunbar.
Absolutely. And just how critical was Coach Wade for you guys back then, leading to, you getting to the NBA and everything. Just how critical was Coach Wade and, just that time in Dunbar to help you shape into the NBA player you became?
Coach Wade played a very big role, not only just for myself, but for mostly all our players on the team. We got to keep in mind that many of us didn't have fathers in the household at the time. We were single family household raised by a single mom. Having that type of man who understood where we was trying to go, who'd been there on the other side of the spectrum in terms with the football aspects of it. He understood how to be a student athlete. He knew what it took. He knew what we needed, and he instructed us. And he gave us that tough love, and that was something that we all needed because of the structure that we came from. And by him taking that type of liking in us, and understood that it was more beyond the game of basketball, that the education component as well was going to enhance us whichever way we would turn out in terms of our journey. So, Coach played a very big pivotal role in all of our careers.
Absolutely. You speak about, education being important. That's something that is definitely should still be important to this day. But you look at the college basketball world today and how that's changed. Well, really, I think it's trickling down into high school basketball as well with recruiting. You see everything going on with NIL. Do you think NIL is potentially changing that mindset and, the importance of education for the better or for the worse when it comes to NIL deals?
Well, I think NIL is changing a lot. I don't want to just say that it's changing in the sense to where the kids are not still being educated, because it takes that individual to understand that, this is a short period of time, a short window of my lifespan where I can, make a little bit of money and at the same time being able to get an education, because 99% of all of them are not going to make it to that next level. So having that understanding and having the mindset, knowing that you should be able to take advantage of what's being given to you, on a collegiate level, because, nothing is promised. But I'm just happy that a lot of kids, especially where we come from, that we have that ability to be able to make something in college. because it's tough as an athlete to get a job in college when you out there in whatever sport you're in. Your time is limited between your education as well as your sport that you're pursuing, and so you got to. And a lot of the regular students have means of being able to get a job. So I'm just grateful that the NCAA came to the conclusion where they can pay reward the athletes. But I think it's gotten out of control with the NIL situation, because NIL stands for name, images, and likeness. And I don't think any of them really represent that. And a lot of kids are just kind of bouncing from schools to school and not being accountable. Because again, now that they've given these contracts, it's pretty much like a contract in terms of professional sports that we play. You have certain rules, certain criteria where you can't wiggle out of it in terms of to obligate that contract. But that's the only downside I see it in the NCAA, based on the kids taking advantage of that aspect of it by jumping from school to school.
Yeah, I definitely want to stay on that when we talk about just the jumping from school to school. I mean, we're seeing guys like playing now, they're playing on their fourth team or fourth school in 4 years. That's something we just never have seen really in the history of college sports. Like we're about to have a lot more of that. How would you, if you were in that situation, what would be your idea to kind of reel in, how NIL is kind of like having these kids run loose and where they can't go from school to school to school? What would your idea be to kind of, reel in before it actually starts to get a little bit out of control?
Well, treat it just like a professional contract, where you got obligations to where this contract stands and it reads exactly what the terms are. And if if you want to, breach that contract, then you lose that portion of that percentage or that compensation that you was guaranteed. So it goes hand in hand. It's just like an NBA contract. When you sign a 3-year contract, you just can't just up and jump and leave just because you say you want to leave. Have to go through a process. A team had to be, on the same page with you. If that's the case maybe if they want to, reach your, your goals that you're trying to have, but also, the organization have their own, you know, plans as well, and you may still fit in their plan. So that's where it comes for me, being able to be professional about the contracts, and it stimulates exactly what the terms are, to where it can't just go from school to school, because you do have a lot of college coaches recruiting these kids behind their back and not even knowing, coaches not even knowing that they're being pursued. But again, if you can kind of put that in the contracts where they cannot, move, or if they do decide to move, they lose portion of that compensation that they was guaranteed.
I mean, I guarantee that. I think that's a good idea. Like money talks always. It'll talk when you want to leave or when you want to stay. So I definitely agree with that. Circling back to what you said about this, where we came from as basketball players, coming from Baltimore. Recently in the NCAA tournament, watching University of Maryland, Derek Queen hit a big shot, game winner to propel Maryland past Colorado State. And the announcer asked him, like, what allows you to thrive in pressure situations? He said, "Because I'm from Baltimore, that's why." So, like, tell our viewers, like, what that means, like, what's different about basketball players coming from Baltimore?
Well, Baltimore is a type of place where, as you look at the environment, it's very challenging. So, of a player that's coming from that atmosphere, he's been very resilient. He understands what he's faced against, and the obstacles that he got to overcome make him more of a confident individual moving forward, regardless of who they go up against. And that's the mindset that we all develop, based on the environment that we was faced with. And Derek is no different. And I'm just happy and so pleased with his development and his growth, and seeing him being able to give himself a chance. Because, you look back, many of them kids came after us, they didn't give themselves a chance. Some type of way where, they got in the rush where it was too soon to put themselves in that NBA draft, or they got caught up in other things and with the streets, or maybe in a girl situation. So whatever the case may be, they never gave themselves that chance to see if they had that opportunity. And I'm so happy for Dirk, because he gave himself that chance. He stayed on course, he stayed on the path, and he believed in the process that if you go out and do the things that we believe you're capable of doing, you'll be rewarded for it. And that's exactly what's happening for him.
Yes, sir. And props to Derek Queen out there. Again, another product of Baltimore, Maryland. Played at the University of Maryland, my alma mater, my dad's alma mater. So we're going to stay there going into the NBA draft. Derek Queen is projected to be one of the lottery picks in this year's draft. Your Charlotte Hornets, they've been struggling for the past few years, to say the least. LaMelo Ball has been like the star attraction and everything, but he's kind of been in and out of the lineup, not able to stay healthy. What do you think the Charlotte Hornets need to look at in this offseason to start getting themselves back on track?
Well, they need some shooters, for sure. They need shooters around Melo. We got Brandon Miller coming back, off his injury, as well as Grant Williams coming back off his injury. So injuries always derail a team when you have those type of core players that get hurt and they're not there for a core period of time. But now that these guys are starting to rehabilitate and hopefully they'll be healthy when the season starts. And then the draft is going to dictate as well, who's available, what type of moves are going to be made. Are teams going to move the pick to trade up to get a veteran or so forth? Charlotte got the fourth pick in the draft, so it should be a really good player there for them to take. But right now, I think they still trying to find those pieces to be complementary to the core guys that they have with Melo Ball, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, Mark Williams. And so, but we'll see.
I hear you on that. Cooper Flagg is expected to be the presumptuous number 1 overall pick. Have you gotten a chance to see him at all? Does this game remind you of anyone particular that you may have played in your era, or maybe the era we're looking at in recent years? Like he's obviously going to be going to the Dallas Mavericks, and barring something crazy. I doubt that GM wants to trade that number 1 pick, given what he's traded recently and how that city's really come down on him. So I imagine he's probably going to be a Dallas Maverick to join Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving. So who does Cooper Flagg remind you of in terms of his game?
Well, it's still hard to remind because he's still a high school player, but the kid has a very high IQ. I mean, people try to put him in the conversation of a Larry Bird, but I think he's more athletic than Larry. He also, but he passed. He can pass like Larry. He can shoot it. His shot is not quite accurate as Larry is, but Cooper is his own player. I think he has his own lane to develop who he could be, the type of player he is. I mean, he got a lot of swag in him to be that type of young, confident. Watching him alongside Derek McQueen in high school, I saw a little bit of that, and then watching him with Duke and saying that he took it to another level playing against older guys because he reclassed and he should have been in high school. And for him to be able to come and display that type of skill set against those type of players who was considered, the elites of college, and for him to be, the presumption, best player out of collegiate basketball was saying a lot. So sky's the limit for Cooper. I really believe that he's going to have a very successful career in the NBA. It's just a matter of how quickly it's going to happen.
No, for sure. And I think he's going to a really good situation. You get to learn with the great Anthony Davis. You get to learn from the great Kyrie Irving. You have a great coach in Jason Kidd. So I think he's going to a really good structure. Too often we see a lot of top picks that they're expected to save a franchise, but the franchise itself isn't stable, and it can often lead to them possibly not having the career the start that they want. So I think we got to get into some situations where we're going to label a kid a bust because he couldn't turn the franchise around basically by himself within the first couple of years. So I think going to Dallas is definitely be a good situation for Cooper.
Yeah, it's a little different. In this situation, even though Dallas have, 1 out of the 10 chance of winning that lottery pick, but they wound up getting it. And it wasn't like they was considered one of them, a team that was tanking or a team that was considered should be at the bottom because of the talent pool that they have on their team. But it's just normally a rookie going to considerably, the worst team because that's why it's a lottery. That player normally go in that situation. The pressure is mounting on him, and sometimes, that's how they get labeled if he could be a bust or not because he's not able to pull up that franchise who been at at that dweller, at that seller, situation for quite some time. But it's not just all one player. They have to have a plan, understanding that you bring in quality players as you move forward and knowing that he's part of the bigger plan. But Cooper don't even have that situation. He's going to a different situation where he got 2 veterans, 2 star players, and an organization who've been there and done it. So he'll be able to, get that speed information a little quicker than some others probably get it later on.
Absolutely. So the NBA offseason is obviously highlighted by the draft also, but it's also highlighted by some stars that could potentially be on the move. Primarily Giannis Antetokounmpo out of the Milwaukee Bucks. It's been said that he is opening his doors to possibly joining another team this offseason, barring trade and barring a trade that the Bucks feel is fair to them as well as giving up Giannis. He's been linked recently to the Houston Rockets and also the San Antonio Spurs. Where do you see Giannis Antetokounmpo playing next season in the NBA?
I mean, yeah, those are the teams that have been thrown out there. But who knows what it's going to take to get Giannis over there. But I think Giannis has wore his, I don't want to say wore his welcome out in Milwaukee, but I think it's time for him to leave. He gave Milwaukee everything he possibly can give them, brought him a championship. It's a really small market. I think this time in his career, being 35, he's looking to have some pieces around him that he have an opportunity to win in this next 2 years. I think he saw what Milwaukee had and what Dame Lillard is going through, that he probably didn't see, the light at the end of the tunnel at that situation. But Giannis, I mean, between him and KD, I mean, it's going to be a really high sought after, this summer in terms of who land the two.
No, definitely. You mentioned KD. He definitely. You talk about where you're welcome, and not to the fault of KD. It's just that the Suns organization just is flat out not gotten it done. KD has played really well, but this team, the organization, has not fulfilled what everyone expected them to do. I'm having the likes of Devin Booker and Bradley Beal with a Kevin Durant. Now it seems like KD is back on the move. Again, the Houston Rockets have been labeled the Oklahoma City Thunder, which is crazy, even to think. But a lot of people are thinking if they don't get it done this season, that KD could possibly be en route for a return to Oklahoma City. Do you think KD can still be the best player on a championship caliber team?
I don't think he could be the best. I think he could be a closer. He could be that piece that they really need to get over the hump. He can also be that number one option for sure, if need be, because that's the type of skill set that he still, possessed. But I think KD, it depends on who's around him, what he needs, because he needs a walking bucket, and that's always going to be the case with him. And I think at this stage right now, he needs the right pieces around him, on both ends of the floor in order for him to accomplish the goal that he wants to try to win a championship, outside of being with Stephen. So hopefully he can get that this summer because, I mean, again, time is running out in terms for those guys, the Stephen, the LeBrons. And so I think the window is really closing as shortly as possible.
Agreed. So recently, Michael Jordan's agent, I came out and said a few things at the press conference. He said that if Michael Jordan had his pick of where he could go as far as the teams, that he would win like 15 championships. Now, it seemed like it was a nice little shot at LeBron because obviously the GOAT conversation continues. Even though I feel like there is no debate in my opinion, it's MJ. People have tried to put LeBron up in there, but I gotta say, like, I felt like it was a little bit of an unfair shot at LeBron James because we're playing a game of what ifs. But what are your thoughts about MJ's agent making those kind of statements, and do you think it was like a straight shot at LeBron?
Yeah, well, that's David. That was all of our agent, myself, MJ's, Alonzo, so forth. David, I saw that interview. I saw that when he made that statement. But it wasn't nothing wrong about it because if MJ had the ability to go team up with other stars, then he possibly would have won more titles. But again, it's the what if. MJ didn't have that mindset. He wanted to beat all those guys. So I mean, that was his way of saying that I'm better than you, not to join you to to where we can win it together. So it was different time, different era. And David, that's just David. That was his client. He always believed MJ is the greatest to ever lace him up. And by him, making that statement, I'm quite sure he knew that it was gonna, find the airway somewhere because of the thing, as you alluded to, the GOAT conversation that's going around.
Yeah, definitely feel that. So I'm saying with the NBA, the Oklahoma City Thunder, they've been the best team in basketball, in my opinion, all season long. They steamrolled their way to the NBA Finals after knocking out the Timberwolves in 5 games. They're waiting on the winner of the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks. Who do you think has the better chance at taking down Oklahoma City? Do you think it's the Pacers or do you think it's the Knicks?
No, it's the Pacers. It's the Pacers. I think the Knicks have hit the wall. But if they're able to come back, even from this series, I still think they don't have enough to beat OKC. OKC is really deep. They've been deep for a reason. They've been the number one team all season for a reason, based on their both ends of the sides of the basketball. And they also have depth. and they got an MVP player who's really hungry, who got these guys believing. The chemistry is tremendous. They seem like they're all on the string. Um, and coach got them playing at a high level right now, and they truly believe that they are the best team. And I don't see any reason that they shouldn't be the last team standing.
So assuming that the Pacers win Game 6 tomorrow at night against the Knicks, how many games do you think the Pacers could possibly get against Oklahoma City? I think I'm with you. I don't think anybody's taking them down at this point. They have just been, and I think the 7-game series against Denver really solidified it for me because it gave them adversity that they needed, and we needed to see it because we saw how in adversity last year when they lost to Luka and Kyrie, it was like, okay, this is the first taste of like playoff adversity. How did they respond? They came back and I think showed a lot of growth against Denver. But so now that they're here, and assuming the Pacers win, how many games do you think the Pacers would get? Or will it be a sweep?
And that is exactly what they needed. They needed to be battle tested, and that's what they got it last year. This year they fell into that same situation, but they had home court advantage, which they worked so hard to get all season long, and they capitalized on it to show the former the champs that they have arrived. And these guys right now, they believe it, and knowing how they are so close of accomplishing it. I think that the series is only going to go for 5 games. I think the Pacers may get 1 game out of it based on the style of play they play, and they go get that game at home. But it's just something about OKC. It's how they all locked in, how they treasured both the basketball on both ends. But I mean, Indiana could capable of winning 2, but I just think it will go 5.
I get that. And their 3 best players, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is 26, Jalen Williams is 24, Chet Holmgren 23. Do you see, like, if Oklahoma City closes the deal here, do you see them possibly becoming the next dynasty in the NBA?
I don't want to go say dynasty, but if they keep them guys together, they're gonna win a few championships. And one thing about it is that they have got good pieces in all different type of positions. They all 3 complement each other, and they all 3 different positions to where that allows the other players to do what they do, where the role players can, play at their highest level as well to contribute. So when you got 3 offensive players skilled as Shai, Jalen, and Chet, I mean, and also they play defense. I mean, that's a formula for winning on any given night. I'm not quite sure. Presley, the general manager, the president, understand what he has, and he's gonna try to keep them together as much as he can, as long as he can, I should say.
I agree. Sam Presley, had the likes of KD and James Harden and Russell Westbrook for as long as he could have them. It was a fun group to watch. We're kind of seeing, in a way, a reincarnation of that same core group. And I agree. I think if OKC can finish the deal here, I don't see why they can't go back to the finals, assuming that they keep this roster together. So a little bit about your career. What would you say was probably like one of your favorite year in the NBA? I know it's probably like a hard question to ask, but what was like a favorite year in your career, with the Charlotte Hornets or period?
Yeah, I mean, I had several. I think the 92-93 season, and then the 93-94, when you average a double-double. And we were starting to make a really good push, acquiring Alonzo that first year, having LJ his second year. We were starting to make a move, and having that type of talent around you, you was able to flourish and do the things that, you felt that you was capable of doing. And I think those were 2 seasons that really stands out.
I agree. One of your most memorable plays that everyone knows is you blocking Patrick Ewing at 7 feet tall. For being 5'3", you had about 39 blocks in your career, and one of them was against Patrick Ewing. Like, if you can you take us through that play? And do you still give Pat Ewing to this day any stuff for that? Like, hey, remember when I blocked your shot?
Yeah. Actually, that was during the playoff, and Pat always had the little fadeaway where he liked to put the ball behind his head. And as soon as I blocked it, I let him know he'll be part of my highlight fan forever. Yeah. So every time we kind of run into each other, I always remind him about the block, and of course that gives him a big chuckle. But that's the joy of the game, man. When you out there playing against your peers, and your peers give you that type of respect.
Absolutely, man. Is there a point guard in today's NBA that reminds you of you at all?
Not one. The game has changed. The kid from New Orleans, he kind of do similar things that I used to do on the defense end, sneak up behind the guys. Everado. He stink up behind the guys, but he be hiding. You know, I'm playing defense on my guy where I let him go, and then I run up behind him. But he do it a little different. But that's the only guy that kind of, you know, play it in a little similar in the way I play defense. But I don't think anybody out there remind me of myself.
Yeah. Before we get you up out of here, Muggs, we're going to talk about a little bit about the oldest player in the NBA right now, LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers. It's expected that LeBron's going to come back at 41 years old next season. Luka Doncic has been acquired. A lot of people believe that, you know, acquiring Luka will extend LeBron's career. Do you think Luka can get LeBron James one more championship in LA?
It ain't gonna be just Luka. They need more pieces than that. I just don't think that in LeBron era right now, I think he got probably about 1 or 2 years left of that. Then I see a championship in the Lakers' future. There's so many other pieces that got to go with that. And Luka, hopefully, he can come back, re-sign, and be in the best shape. But he also got to address that other side of the basketball, and to where he can't be just targeted. And who knows what the Lakers going to do? They don't have no height. They need some height. So, you know, I'm quite sure they're going to be pretty busy in the offseason. But I'll never count them out. I'll never count LeBron them out, never count Luka out, nor the Lakers, because, you know, those type of players, type of franchise always seem to find a way.
Definitely, and led by a great young coach in J.J. Redick. Within his first season, ended up winning 50 games. A lot of people didn't believe that he deserved that job or was qualified, but he has shown that he definitely is, and definitely has a bright future there for the Lakers.
Yeah, JJ. Yeah, he. You know, again, he's a gymnast. He's a baller. Fortunate enough for him, you know, he was able to not have any coaching experience and just, you know, fall into that situation with a Luka and a LeBron James. Not many coaches have that opportunity to have that type of team, those type of talent on the team to coach him. So he was fortunate enough to have that. He did a good job, I believe, as well. Still, a lot of things yet remain being seen in terms of the adjustments that wasn't made during the playoff. But again, you know, JJ gonna have a long career. He's gonna have a long career, and I'm looking nothing but success moving forward.
Absolutely. Muggsy, we appreciate your time, man. I'm definitely we got to get you back here at some point in time. But everyone, I want to thank everyone for coming to Club JG. The great Muggsy Bogues, thank you again for coming. We will see you guys next time.
Appreciate you, John. Boy, you're doing a great job, man. This is nice. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, man.
All right, buddy.